Hello everyone, good morning. I would like to welcome you on board to the COREALIS Antwerp Demo and Training Webinar, Sustainability Through Optimization. My name is Elena Krikiyani. I'm a project manager at Cibility, and today I will be the moderator of this session. The agenda of today's webinar will be as follows. We are going to start with the general overview presentation. Then we were going to have the first technical presentation in relation to the Port of the Future series game. Right after, we're going to have a presentation from the Port of Antwerp Living Lab. And these technical presentations will conclude with the Cargo Flow Optimiser and the Brokerage Platform presentations. Finally, we are going to have a Q&A session at the end. To this end, I would like to point out that you don't need to wait until the end of the session. You can use the chat on your right-hand side to provide your questions. I will gather all of them and I will address them to the respective speakers. Just one remark, only for the Port of the Future series game, the questions will be addressed to Mr. Wiebe de Boer right after his presentations. So let's start with the first presentation, the COREALIS Project Overview 1, which is going to be made by Ms. Margarita Kostovasili. Ms. Margarita is a scientific project manager at iSense Group of ICCS. She is a transport engineer with more than 5 years of experience in the management and delivery of infrastructure projects. She holds a Master Engineer in Rural and Survey Engineering from the National and Technical University of Athens, and she has also attended an internship in photogrammetry and transport planning in the Polytechnic University of Valencia. She has significant experience in transport planning and modeling, focusing on data analysis, driving behavior, and traffic simulation, combined with information technology and applications. She has participated in several FP7 Horizon 2020 and national research projects in the field of intelligent transport systems, smart mobility, security, and ICT. Margarita, the floor is yours. Margarita, your microphone is muted.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Good morning, everyone. Welcome here. So I hope that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let me start with the project overview presentation about the COREALIS project with some facts and figures. So COREALIS is a European Union research and innovation project under H2020 framework that has been submitted under the topic of the Port of the Future. It has a total duration of 36 months, starting at May of 2018 and ending at April of next year, 2021. It is coordinated by our side, ICCS here in Greece, and the consortium is consisted of 17 partners from 9 European and associated countries. Among them, there are 4 research institutes, 5 ports, 4 industry partners, 3 SMEs, and 1 ITS association. Also, 5 living labs have been established in 5 European port cities, including 3 out of the top 5 in Europe, which are the Antwerp port in Belgium, which we're going to discuss about today, and that is the number 2 of Europe, the Piraeus port in Greece, which is the number 4 in Europe, and the Valencia port in Spain, that is number 5 in Europe. Also, we have 2 medium-sized ports, namely Livorno port in Italy and the HaminaKotka port in Finland. So, what COREALIS is about? The main goal of COREALIS project is to propose a strategic innovative framework that is supported by disruptive technologies, including Internet of Things, data analytics, next-generation traffic management, and emerging 5G networks, in order to support cargo ports about the optimization of port operations, the reduction of environmental footprint, the increase of efficiency and the reduction of traffic within and around ports, and the sustainability of the socioeconomic development of the port and its surrounding area. To do so, a palette of innovations have been developed and tested in the different living labs, all of them trying to optimize the port operation. Let me provide you a small description for each one of them. So we have the Port of the Future series game, which is a simulation tool for decision making. The Antwerp, which is a model-driven real-time control module that supports 5G smart terminal operations. The Brokerage Platform, which is a cloud-based marketplace for leasing and exchanging intra-port assets. The PortMod, that is an optimization modeling tool for container terminal operations. The Innovation Incubator, which is a sim making the port the epicenter of the local industrial landscape. The Track Appointment System, which is a reservation system including real-time traffic data. The Just-in-Time Rail Shuttle Service, which is a feasibility study for key port hinterland corridors. The Cargo Flow Optimiser, that's an optimization tool for ocean, rail, inland waterway cargo flows. The Predictor for Asset Management, which is an optimization machine learning tool for efficient use of port assets. And last but not least, the Green Cookbook, that's a cost-benefit analysis and roadmap in order to reduce the port's environmental footprint. Here is the matrix of the aforementioned innovations and the relevant living labs where each one of them has been developed and implemented. So in Valencia Living Lab, we have the track appointment system, the just-in-time rail shuttle service, and the innovation incubator. In the Piraeus Living Lab, we have the predictor for asset management, the energy assessment cookbook, and the Port of the Future series game. In Livorno Living Lab, we have the port mode, the Antwerp and the Port of the Future series game. In Antwerp Living Lab, we have Brokerage Platform, Cargo Flow Optimiser, and in the HaminaKotka Living Lab, we have the track appointment system, the port mode, and the Port of the Future series game. So in today's webinar, we're going to discuss about the Antwerp Living Lab and the relevant innovations, namely the Brokerage Platform and the Cargo Flow Optimiser, along with the Port of the Future series game, which is somehow a part of every Living Lab COREALIS project. So that is COREALIS project in a glance. Let me finish my presentation with a short video about COREALIS and give the floor to Julia for sharing the video. Thank you.
Ports are essential for the European economy and the economic growth, as the 74% of goods exported or imported to the EU are transported via its seaports. At the same time, the challenges they are facing are only getting greater. Volumes of cargo are increasingly higher. Number of vessels is shrinking. Cargo flows types are changing due to technological trends, such as Industry 4.0. Cargo port operators are struggling to comply with the increasingly stricter environmental regulations and societal views for sustainable operations. COREALIS' vision is to embrace circular economy models in the port strategy and operations, to reduce ports' total environmental footprint, to optimize yard capacity and improve safety without major infrastructural investments, to streamline cargo flows in favor of green transport modes, to encourage ports to become an innovation hub of the local, industrial and urban space, to improve port-city stakeholder collaboration for medium and long-term decision-making. To achieve its vision, COREALIS is developing a palette of port-driven, technological and societal innovations, a reservation system including real-time traffic data, a cloud-based marketplace for leasing and exchanging intra-port assets, an optimization planning modeling tool for container terminal operations, a model-driven, real-time control module supporting 5G smart terminal operations and IoT. An optimization, machine learning tool for efficient use of port assets. An optimization tool for ocean, rail, inland waterway cargo flows. A simulation tool for decision making. A cost-benefit analysis and roadmap for reducing ports' environmental footprint and achieving energy network efficiency. A feasibility study for key port hinterland corridors. A scheme making the port the epicenter of the local industrial landscape. COREALIS Innovations are implemented and tested in real operating conditions in 5 European port living labs.
Thank you, Margarita, for this very informative presentation. Let's now proceed with the second presentation made by Mr. Wiebe de Boer. Mr. Wiebe de Boer has about 10 years of professional experience in harbor and coastal engineering. He works as a senior project manager and advisor at Deltares, an independent Dutch research institute. He has international experience on projects related to port infrastructure, nature-based solutions, and coastal erosion mitigation. Furthermore, he is project developer at Smart Port on innovation projects in the Port of Rotterdam. In his work, Wiebe strives to apply new technologies and integrate knowledge from different disciplines to solve both today's and tomorrow's challenges, including sustainability and climate change adaptation. Wiebe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elena. Hello, welcome everybody. I'm going to give you an introduction on the Port of the Future series game innovation. So why did we start to develop the Port of the Future series game? What was the motivation? Well, the Port of the Future series game is a means of stakeholder engagement. And well, it's becoming increasingly important because port developments are not only there to accommodate economic and population growth, but there is also more and more attention for environmental and social aspects. So port developments are increasingly more complex. So we call it also inclusive green growth, where we try to balance the triple P, people, planet, and prosperity. And on top of that, there's also a lot of new challenges coming towards ports. So there's emerging technologies or digitalization, the energy transition, and also climate change. And no individual stakeholder can solve those challenges alone, so we need to cooperate. And this is where the Port of the Future series game comes in. So what are the objectives of the Port of the Future series game? Well, an important aspect of the Port of the Future series game is to raise awareness amongst the stakeholders. And we do so by simulating real-world events and making the stakeholders aware of the, let's say, port playing field and the different port development aspects and stakeholders that play a role in that field. A second objective is that we would like to involve stakeholders in those developments. So the Port of the Future is there to stimulate the involvement of stakeholders in discussions about the Port of the Future. So stakeholders can together explore and discuss different aspects of port development. And the third objective is education. So the game has elements of, well, multi-stakeholder settings, but also multidisciplinary thinking in it, and can serve in this way to educate stakeholders on those topics. So how does it work? What is the Port of the Future series game? An important aspect of the game is that we would like to achieve those learning goals, and there's an important role there for the game facilitator. And besides this facilitator who helps to achieve the goals, we have a digital simulation environment in which, well, there is a fixture port, as you can now see on the screen. And there, the stakeholders have to think together. They are challenged to think together on how their Port of the Future needs to look like and what needs to happen there. And in the game, there are different groups of players, and they all represent a different stakeholder. So well, I give some examples, and these are not all the stakeholder roles in the game, but it could be the government or a port authority, a terminal operator, NGO, could also be a shipping company. And to make the game fit for purpose for the specific port in which it's played, the stakeholder groups can be selected accordingly. So in that way, we can make the game fit for purpose. The idea is then that, well, they work together. So the stakeholders need to negotiate about the measures. And of course, those stakeholders may have different interests, so they may have conflicts and not necessarily think the same about the port of the future. Nevertheless, they need to come to a consensus, and each round of the game, they need to select 2 measures. Here you see some examples of the measure cards. Those measures could be anything. It could be related to, let's say, port expansions. It can be hinterland connections. It can be electrification or energy-related measures. And every stakeholder will think from their own perspective, okay, what do I want in my port of the future? But they also need to be aware of, well, the stakes of others to convince them. Well, each measure has scores. So, well, you cannot see it maybe in detail here, but every measure has a score on the 3 P's. So people, planet, and prosperity or profit. And it has costs and benefits. So the stakeholders need to decide, okay, would I like to invest more in, let's say, the environment, or more in prosperity, or more in people, or all of them? So decisions need to be made, and of course they are constrained by, let's say, the number of measures that you can take, but also by the budget that is available. Well, to give you a little bit of an idea of the underlying KPIs that were used to score, let's say, those measures qualitatively on those P's, we used KPIs for people, planet, and profit, as you can see on the right-hand side. And then the idea is that in each round, well, the stakeholders make a choice together after their discussions. And then they get feedback, and the feedback is presented in the screen. So here you see the people score, the planet score, and the prosperity score. In this example, the planet and the prosperity score are minus. And based on this feedback, the stakeholders can decide, okay, maybe in the next round, I want to do better on planet. So I want to take different measures than in the first round. And also the element of multiple rounds can be used for the stakeholders to negotiate. So maybe you give something in the first round, and then you take something in the second round. So this is the concept of the Port of the Future series game. As I said, there's an important role for the facilitator, who needs to kind of facilitate this process, but also stimulate the learning and the discussions between the stakeholders. So the facilitator will, after each round, also give feedback on what has happened, what decisions were made, why those decisions were made, etc. On top of the basic gameplay, the game also has scenarios and events. The scenarios are very much, let's say, similar to the challenges that we introduced on the first slides, like climate change adaptation, the energy transition, could also be economic stagnation, as we are facing now because of COVID. It can be innovations or digitalization, etc. Those scenarios can be used also, again, to make the game more fit for purpose. Not every port maybe wants to focus on all those scenarios, but wants to look at the specific scenario and how to anticipate to that scenario. And it can also be used to, well, have a specific learning goal of the session, let's say. And then on top of that, we also have events. And those events are meant to basically, trigger a little bit of debate and conflict amongst the stakeholders, basically to disbalance the consensus that may have been there. So, for example, there could be a strike, or there could be maybe a storm because of climate change. There could be a network breakdown. And well, those events may not have the same consequences for each stakeholder, so it will lead to a shift maybe in the consensus, and stakeholders are triggered to think differently and think about also the unexpected in their next actions. So this is also meant, again, to basically stimulate this, well, dynamics in the thinking. well, normally in normal circumstances, the best is to play this game live with the stakeholders. Unfortunately, the current situation doesn't allow us to do so. So to give you a little bit of a sneak preview of how this game will evolve, without, of course, the dynamic stakeholder discussions, we made a small video. Well, here you see the start screen of the game. And then the first step is that you select the scenario that you want to play. So in this case, the climate change adaptation scenario is selected. Then you see that the start scores are affected. In this case, planet and people are on minus, and well, you still have quite some budget, and prosperity is at 0. Now the first round starts. So normally then the stakeholders start to discuss about measures. Well, here we show that they already have selected measures. They can be selected either from the list or by a QR code. In this case, 2 port expansion measures have been selected just for the purpose of this example. And then you can see how this affects the scores on people, planet, and prosperity. So this is well for example, the people and the prosperity parts. Well, then also a second measure, which is a port island. Well, the stakeholders then get visual feedback. It's important they see that something is happening with their choices. And again, they get also feedback on the scores. And that will also change the scores in the screen. So now people and prosperity are better, but planet is still minus. Well, this feedback, normally then the facilitator will provide feedback on what has happened and will also say, okay, we'll reflect a little bit on that. And that can then stimulate different thinking in the second round. So in the second round, there are 2 different measures selected, which focus maybe a little bit more on planet. In this case, also planet is positive for the electrification of port equipment. And it also does well on people and prosperity. So again, the stakeholders get this visual feedback. Also in round 7, we can have these events. It's not shown in this example, but that will also affect the scores and also then the subsequent gameplay. Now, for now, we stop the game. I will also maybe focus a little bit on this screen. At the end of the game, it's important again to have this discussion and reflect on the choices that have been made, why they have been made. Were the stakeholders triggered to think differently? Have they adjust their vision of their port of the future based on the game? And this is a very important part of the game where the facilitator plays a crucial role. So in this case, we see here the start scores based on the scenario that was selected, and you see the end scores. So quite a bit of money was spent, but that has a positive effect on the people and prosperity scores. And yet the planet is still on minus. So if there would have been a third round, maybe the stakeholders would have selected different measures to also make that, let's say, more positive. But of course, it also depends on, let's say, the balance in the stakeholder group. So if there are more stakeholders favoring prosperity, then there may be a different outcome than when there are more, for example, NGOs in the group. Okay. So this is the end of my video. I have some concluding remarks also to end my presentation. I hope that after this presentation you get the message that this game can help to raise awareness and to explore alternative paths for the port of the future. It's not a decision-making tool as such, as it is not providing really quantitative decision information. It's more qualitative in a more, let's say, explorative stage of the decision-making for strategic decisions that need to be made by the port. The feedback that we have gotten so far from experiences is that it is a very nice and interactive means to learn about port developments and challenges. So it's also fun and you learn something about it, and it helped to better understand different aspects of port sustainability, also to step into each other's shoes, to understand different stakeholder viewpoints, which is really important to tackle the challenges that we are facing, and also to think differently. And by this, the game can be the starting point of further stakeholder engagement in such developments. So this brings me to the end of my presentation. If you want to have more information, you can visit the COREALIS website or the Deltares website. And if there are any questions now, then I'm available to answer them. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Bebe, for this very nice presentation. I would like to remind you that Viebe can reply to your questions right now. I have one question Viebe already posed from the audience. So they are asking if you can clarify the role of the facilitator in the game.
Yes, I can try. There's an important role for the facilitator, basically to, well, trigger the stakeholders to think and to start discussions, but also to well, take into account different perspectives. So a lot of stakeholders are used to think from their own interest only, but if you need to reach consensus, you also, well, need to think about the others. So the facilitator can play a role in that. And also to really reflect on the choices that have been made. So the facilitator can summarize decisions that have been made by the stakeholders, but also challenge them with questions. Okay, why did you choose this and not that? And have you made different choices along the gameplay, and why? Those kind of things. And that is very important for the learning, which is and the awareness raising, which is, well, as I said, one of the core objectives of this game.
Thank you, Vebe. I think the question is fully covered. So thank you very, very much. Let's now proceed to the next presentation, to the Port of Antwerp Living Lab. We will give the baton to Mr. Nico de Kouwer. Mr. Nico de Kouwer is currently a business architect, digitalization and port community project representative at the Port of Antwerp, in which he almost has 27 years of experience in the port and maritime sector. He holds a master's degree in mathematics and computer sciences from the University of Antwerp. Nico's delegate from Antwerp Port Community System is a participating member of International Port Community System Association. Since mid-2017, he is also representative for Europe and North America in the Executive Committee of IPCSA and chairman of International Port Community Systems Association Standards and Technology Committee. Last but not least, he is also a member of the Data Collaboration Committee at the International Association of Ports and Harbors. Nico, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you for the introduction. Good day, everybody. I will give an overview of, well, an introduction on the Port of Antwerp and also the reasons why we contributed to this and invested in this European project of COREALIS. First of all, let me give some figures on the Port of Antwerp. Last year we did 235 million tons of freight. We have a port area of about 120 square kilometers, which is rather big, in fact. We did more than 11 million TEU, but we have a capacity of 15 million. We create more than 140,000 jobs, direct and indirect, and we also contribute to the GDP of Belgium of about 5%, which makes more than 20 billion euros. So we're the second port in Europe after Rotterdam. On containers, we are the 14th port worldwide, but we also have the biggest petrochemical cluster in Europe and the second biggest petrochemical cluster in the world after Houston. We have, if we look to connections, ocean connections, we have more than 1,000 direct maritime services to all the ports in all the continents. And as you may know, or yeah, the Port of Antwerp is actually 80 kilometers inland, which makes the advantage for ocean vessels to bring their cargo already part of the cargo towards the hinterland. So hinterland is very important to us. If you look where Antwerp is situated in Europe, then it's about 60% of the European economic market resides in a radius of about 500 kilometers from Antwerp. So connectivity with the hinterland is for us is an advantage, and we try to elaborate that advantage by having strong hinterland connections with rail, barge, and road. The Port of Antwerp did an put some ambitious targets for 2030 towards the modal shift. So we want to reduce truck with about 13%, and we want to double the figures on rail connections, the rail modal shift, and also for barge. We already have 36% of cargo that goes via barge towards the hinterland, and but we want to increase that to 42%. Of course, for that we need an innovation strategy to realize all that. So the hinterland is part of that innovation strategy, but it's of course not the only one. We use both internal and external parties to bring that level of innovation in our company and for the whole of the port area. Of course, innovation, you have to match culture and technology. It's not only technology, of course, but you need a culture, both internal culture and an external culture. And for that, we as a Port of Antwerp, we want to be a facilitator on that. As part of that innovation strategy, we want to build a digital nervous system to facilitate a safe and an efficient port. So we want to increase our operational excellence by using the data and by using technology and combining all that. So we want to build a digital twin as well, to visualize information and to make that the port more efficient. Of course, for that we need a lot of data, as I said. So we will come to the COREALIS objectives and the tools where we have been working on. So if you look to the COREALIS objectives for the Port of Antwerp, the most important were objective 2, to reduce the port's total environmental footprint. To reach that modal shift, and for that we have been working together with Mosaic, where Stefano will give more detail on the cargo flow optimizer. And the other objective was to embrace circular economy models, where we looked together with Marlo, where Thomas will give some more detail later. We have been working on that equipment brokerage platform. So I will not go much in detail to this, but because it will come later on in this webinar. So the cargo flow optimizer is in fact has two modules, a multimodal inland planner, which is very important for the Port of Antwerp to reach that modal shift towards barge and rail. So we want to improve our modal splits, and also the second module in the cargo flow optimizer is a prediction tool, where one of the ambitions is to reduce the dwell time of containers in the port. But as said, Stefano will give more detail on the tool and what we've done with that. The second tool we have been working on is the equipment brokerage platform. So we want to, like I said, we want to embrace the circular economy in our port area, and we have been looking to a sharing economy. There are lots of examples of sharing economies, and we want we wanted to see with this project if we also can contribute with that in the port area. By sharing equipment between several parties, but Thomas from Marlo will give more detail on that. So that on the marketplace or the equipment brokerage platform. So this gives an overview of the innovations where we have been working on together with the other parties in the consortium. Thank you.
So thank you, Nico. We all know that the Port of Antwerp is a truly global actor. Let's now proceed with the next presentation for the COREALIS Cargo Flow Optimiser by Mr. Stefano Persi from Mosaic Factor. Mr. Stefano Persi is a founder and CEO of Mosaic. He has a degree in computer engineering from the University of Modena in Italy, and he is a certified PMP from the PMI Association. His previous experience is in embedded development in the fields of automotive, telecommunication, and aerospace. He is experienced in management as well as in development and integration areas in international projects. He participated in several FP6, FP7, and Horizon 2020 projects for the European Commission. Stefano, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Nico, for the introduction. So let's see. Let's talk about the Cargo Flow Optimiser, and you will see that we also look at the two components basically that make it. First of all, just two words about Mosaic Factor. We are a SME, a startup based in Barcelona, and our focus is data. So you see that here, obviously, when we talk about data, is software handling data. So we are experienced in modeling and software that run for planning and real time. But what we think is crucial is to know the context. So often we just talk about data, but which data and what are we using them for? This is where we try to bring value. Of course, artificial intelligence, of course, big data technologies, but let's start from the understanding the data. So in this project, we talk about the CFO. We say here optimization of the port operations, meaning inside and outside. So not just the terminal operation, but the whole flows, or at least having better understanding on the flows for then optimizing this in a second stage. So we separate in two modules. In reality, we see that they have their own purpose, even if they are very close together and they collaborate between each other. So the multimodal inland planner and the cargo flow prediction that now we see what they're realizing. So first of all, the multimodal inland planner, and bear in mind it's a planner and not like, so if you compare it to the multimodal solution for mobility, it's just to make the original planning. It's not to drive you while you're moving. It's no following through your route, or at least not the intention today. So the intention is I'm choosing how to move, or have an idea how to move my goods, usually from a certain port, but maybe I want to see alternative options, or we want to show them alternative option to make doubts, to create a vision of what can be the alternative. So what we need, first of all, is to have a complete overview of all the connections from the Port of Antwerp. And it sounds easy when we talk about mobility. When we talk about freight, it's not that obvious, especially when we talk about multimodal connections. Obviously, the multimodal connections that are feasible. And one of the first problems you come across is like the data are not all there. The offer in terms of infrastructure, that meaning connections, but meaning also the service, the train, for instance, when are they operating and so on. This is also a starting point that need to be improved for the full potential. But then what are we giving to the operators that are using this tool? Well, we think that the starting point is, of course, an idea about the price, because of course it cannot be the final price, but an estimation about the price in terms of money, but especially in terms of CO2. Well, finally, we got some maturity about the calculation of the CO2, thanks to the work of many organizations that focus on this. So what we do is we reuse those standardized methods to calculate CO2, and we put them available for the company using this service, so that you can calculate this in an easy way. And the aim is, and the goal is, giving the company that use this, being the port, the terminal, or especially the carriers, to have in mind they need to have some added value to use this tool. So what we're trying is compare, like show the alternatives, and give an overview of what are the possibilities. A quick overview, an easy one, because when you're planning, you don't have much time to lose for this decision. And obviously, and also you're used to your own idea, so it has to be a quick image. And then we can see the several options. So here the focus is on barges, and we can see rail, and for the barges, for instance, has been the first planners that we found. At least we didn't find any planner for barges and where to make one, and then for rail and for tracks. And the thing is combining them in a multimodal way. So then we go to the cargo flow prediction, and basically it's very complementary. The idea is also that probably we have in the future to connect this prediction to the first tool. So that I was saying, we provide CO2, we provide cost in terms of money, but also like many other planner, what is the availability of the surrounding area? What is the availability of those services? Okay, there is a train, but how is it? Is there room for it, or is it full? And similar for many resources. So the starting point is to have the data about where the container are flowing. This tool obviously focus on container. So in bound and outbound, but nowadays we know that one of the problems is many ports have data, but often the data are about maybe they arrive too late. So okay, which is the final destination? That's one starting point. That's one question that is not always easily answered. You know the next destination, but what is the time when you receive those data? Because if you want to plan, if you want to position the container in the right place, you need to know it when the container arrives to the port. If you know it a few days later, okay, it's good, but you lose the effectiveness for other purposes. So once you have those data, and we're not just working alone. I mean, Port of Antwerp is the one with a major activity on collecting this, and also Nexport is the main support also for this activity. Once you have this container data, then you can project the use of the territory and the resources outside around the port. So we said before, in the first tool, we look at which is the connection and what are the possibility. And here, basically, we are keeping track of what is usually this use. And over the time, we can have a prediction, and we can predict in a certain conditions, in a certain period, but given also the condition, and not just the time of the year, but like other factors, and how these factors are reflecting, and what is the chances that certain amount of container will go in a certain way and in a certain time, and so on. And this is important for several players. I mean, it's important for the ports to improve the operations, to better to improve the operation about the handling of the containers, so that we position them correctly when they arrive. But it's important also for if we want to have this, to achieve the intermodal shift that Nico was referring to, and we know is a complex target, and we need to look for opportunities. So it's not just saying that the operator should do it, that the operator will do it, but we need to show the business potential of certain options. So the good thing is, like, the shippers are in favor of this finally, because of the much pressure on the CO2 produced. So in similar condition, the CO2 is today a good factor that before maybe it was a bit overlooked. But beside that, also, like, what is the benefit if I am a rail operator and I see a certain patterns, a certain flow? Maybe I can take some business decision, and the same if I am a carrier, and so on. So we need obviously to create the culture, as Nico say, to see the win-win situation, but we needed to look at data, to look at the patterns. Otherwise, we're talking about theories, and that's what we try to do with the cargo flow. Is using a neural network, so a neural network algorithm. So once is trained, the calculation is pretty fast. So today is used mainly for prediction, but it can use also in real time. And then this is not just let's say an analytics, but it's running on software. It can run continuously, as I said before. So here you can see two examples of what we can be looking for. So the container operational terminal data and the arrival and departure traffic data is two examples, but we can focus on different aspects. And the idea is also to work on the easy interaction to the tool, to have like already certain let's say questions or certain yeah, basically to look for what you're looking for on your own way. And lesson learner, let's say that there are some tendencies that we saw already before COREALIS, and there is a recurrent question of who is the main driver for this. Is it the shippers? Is the freight forwarder carriers? The rail operators? Who should take the first step? And my understanding is there is no unique player or unique answer, but it depends from the port, of course, but it depends also from the player. And the main thing we can do is to facilitate the information to all of them, and then each of them can be more reactive in a certain area, or another one can be the first one. So the shippers in certain cases, like we saw in Cluster 2.0 project in Eurologistics in France, they can be the one that are the main driver of putting together the demand. And so we can have the consolidation of the demand of the shippers, and then they ask for a certain solution. I say sometimes like you go and rent a flat together after you create a group. But you can also have the other phenomenon. You see some certain patterns and you say, okay, I put at disposal this train and I bet on this because it will be fulfilled. They're no easy decision, but if we have data, it's easier to take those kind of steps. And then it's kind of obvious we're talking about data, and data are the key. And here I put the example of Google Maps just to compare on mobility side. Obviously, Google Maps is no solution for freight, that's clear, but is one of the main solutions for mobility. But why? It has a nice interface, important, but it has good data to be fed in. And I think with data is we should always think which data we're talking about. Are we talking about what is moved, in which circumstances it moved, what are the options there? So I call it demand, offer, and contest. But in the end, all of them are important. You don't want to have a good amount of data only for one type and completely miss the other one. So if you know what you are moving, but you don't know what the options are there when there is a train or not available, then what you can do is a bit more limited. And that's all on my side. I'm open for questions. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much, Stefano. We know that optimization of port operations is one of the key objectives of COREALIS, and thank you for assisting the project towards this direction. Before proceeding to the next and last but not least presentation, I would like to remind you that you may pose any question that you may have or write your comments on the chat on your right-hand side. I can see that already we have two questions, one for Nico and one for Stefano, that we are going to deal with them during the Q&A. And now let's proceed to the last presentation for today's webinar in relation to the COREALIS marketplace that is going to be made by Mr. Thomas Dovjegevich. I hope I have pronounced your surname correctly. Thomas has been involved in logistics consultancy and research for past 19 years, working for Institute of Logistics and Warehousing, GSI1 Poland, and then starting Marlo Poland, where he was collaborating with transport and logistic companies, mainly in optimizing their operations and introducing IT tools for ports and transport businesses. He's graduated from Poznan University of Technology, Logistics Faculty, having his postgraduate in management from Canadian Institute of Management and Poznan University of Economics. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Elena. Good morning, everyone. Still good morning, at least in Europe. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, Thomas.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's probably the most common words now at work. Can you see my screen? That's the buzzword. Okay, today we'll speak about the COREALIS Brokerage Platform, which has been evolved and produced in Marlo together with the Port of Antwerp and their kind hosting of this. What about sharing economy? Because all the marketplaces are about sharing economy, and it's there's been quite a nice survey for B2C market, but there hasn't been so much about B2B yet. But they say that 80% of our appliances at homes, at least, have been used no more than once a month, which gives an opportunity which gives the market to be as big as $335 billion by 2025 as a forecast for next 5 years. And of course, we all know the big names, but mostly operating locally, like car sharing, couch surfing services, office hubs, and many more examples of sharing resources already somewhere around us. And even from goat sharing to jet sharing, as you can find on the internet. And as I said, the market is huge, and of course on the B2B market as well. And it's of course nothing new. We've been doing it for years already in both B2B and B2C, and that strictly relates to even outsourcing. There's been a nice survey by our project colleagues by VTT on this topic, and they found that the number of definitions of sharing economy that was driving towards circular economy that Nico was mentioning, and the most basic mention internet as the main driver or enabler for the foundation for the collaboration and optimization of the processes, because this is where we all driving. And is there what's there to share in Port of Antwerp? It's as Nico said, it's a huge but it's got a huge potential because it's one of the biggest port in the world. With millions of hectares on its own, and its terminals. This is only about logistics and specializing bulk, but it's over 100 terminals with a huge number of assets to share, and these not being used simply not don't earn money that they were bought for. So what do you really need to do? It's a fairly simple concept. It's you need to file your assets in the system, which you can do also by a file that you can import. Then you just rent to others, price them properly, monitor the use, and update the system. And it's as simple as it seems. It may not be so simple in certain circumstances, as I will tell you that in a minute. So, well, how it really works? It's as I said, it's fairly simple. Just list the assets that contains a number of categories which you can extend on your own using your data you can use for filtering. You can locate the assets. This is the map of Antwerp port, but it can be of course moved anywhere else. This is based on the standard map set from Google. And renting is also made easy. You can search, filter, localize assets to book them from the map, or to book them from the list, or using a file generated from your terminal operating system or any other ERP systems. just to automatize the process. I will tell that in a few slides. You can also estimate the emissions calculated to the transport and to transport an asset from one location to your destination, and that's of course based on the location of actual location of the asset and your location. That's a location of the
So hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I believe that we missed Thomas. I think he will join as soon as possible. So let me check.
While we're waiting for Tomasz, we can answer some questions. You're muted, Yelena.
Yes, indeed. So thank you, Julia. Let's start with the first question addressed to Stefano. So Stefano, the audience is asking, what is, in your opinion, the key for the success of this tool? Stefano, you are muted as well.
Yes, sorry. The key factor, because I see that slowly the demand is raising. So I think that what will make a difference is to have a good data, like many solutions. So for the first one, having really the whole availability in a daily base, because we know that the data they offer is changing. It's not like in mobility, once you have it and it's quite stable and it changes occasionally. Here is an offer that is quite dependent on the day, and the same for the container, to have the data as soon as possible. In both cases will be what make really the solution a strong solution and adopted. Of course, together with keep designing with the users as we start doing.
So thank you, Stefano. I see that Thomas has joined again. So let's proceed with his presentation, and we are going to deal with the rest two questions afterwards.
Thank you so much. I just don't really know where did you see me finishing, because I actually didn't notice that.
You may proceed to the next slide, because I remember this slide.
This one as
and
well?
Also to the next, yes, and the next one.
Okay.
So you were somewhere here, okay?
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm sorry for the technical problems here. So renting is also made easy, as you see it. You can search, filter, localize your assets from the map, or using the CSVs from your ERP systems or TOS, terminal operating systems, simply to automatize the process. And you can estimate the emissions, which I actually said it already, but you didn't have the opportunity to hear me by that time. I will say that in a minute. I will say that right now, based on the location of the asset that you want to rent. you can also determine the distance, how far are you from the asset, and based on this one and based on the type of the asset, you can judge, you can determine the CO2 that is needed for transporting an asset from one place to another. And that's what's quite kind of specific for the ports, because this is a port project, and since then you have to be a little bit more concrete, and these marketplaces are all around the world, and they are quite operating not very successfully, but I'm going to the conclusions in a minute. Anyway, this is where you can judge your CO2 emissions by calculation the distance and the location, and also to help, because this system had to comply with the systems already on board in the terminal. So the terminal operating systems are out there, or ERP systems are out there, and based on the actual plans of stuff that needs to staff and equipment needed to unload a vessel or to deal with the boxes, you have to you can enable to automatize the process, so that you have the TOS or ERP generates a simple file, CSV file, with the dates and the equipment needed, and this imported to the system, to the marketplace. It can simply search automatically for you if a specific equipment is available at that time. You simply click on these check boxes, and it's automatically booked for you. So the features are localizing assets, measuring distances. This is due to the character of the project. It was specifically customized for ports, used to make it easy to localize, and automatically booking via EDI with the EDI support, measuring distances, CO2, etc. So it is also foreseen to be managed by the port, not only by the owner of the system, but the port was supposed to be the owner. So it has a super user feature that was added, so the port can manage the companies and the users. Properly configured system and customized dashboards gives you a number of options, so that the user can track the assets to be returned or delivered to the customer, to track the revenues, and of course localization feature enables the assessing also the idle times, which is something that we were supposed to deal with the project. Main findings. These are interesting, of course, apart from the data which I'll be hooking upon as well. Companies are acting in the scope of such a marketplace work best when they don't compete each other directly on the market. This is what we found out, and that's it of course takes time to introduce the cooperation at the markets like this. It took years for example, retailers to realize that they should complete on the shelf, not on the road. But finally they do, but it's still a bit of a struggle. In this competitive port area, it's also critical to exchange the data with external systems. From other implementations, we found that enlarging an offer with parties not yet being a part of the ecosystem is highly recommended. So getting outside of the port, for example, or an ecosystem. For example, suppliers or options, suppliers or options of selling assets, like an external website, well, internal to the system, but external website for the port, where one terminal is, for example, wants to sell assets, not to rent them only, but sell as well. Specifically customized for port areas, the options are pretty much endless, and we managed to already to do quite a few approaches for specifically for industrial zones specifically, and big offices areas. And it's up to every site to count how much can they potentially save. It only depends on the business model, assets, or frequency of renting, and idle times, and many more. But it does work, and we are pretty sure that as long as it works in B2C very efficiently, it's going to work in B2B as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas, for this technical-oriented presentation. So now we are ready to proceed with the Q&A session. I have already a question for you, Thomas. So the audience is asking how the user is able to track their assets.
Okay, the assets are tracked twofold. Can be tracked twofold. It's been during the test we managed to develop an application for Android now, and it's one of the options, but that's only for testing. Of course, it's in a normal life of the marketplace. It will be done by GPS beacons, or simply beacons based on for example Dash7 protocol, which includes antennas and certain gates, and that's what makes it much more possible.
Thank you very much.
And of course, a cheaper option.
Thank you, Thomas. And I have one more question. I believe it's for Nico. So the audience is asking, will the Port of Antwerp update its strategy or its plan due to the COVID-19? Nico, I believe that you're muted.
Yep, just saw it. Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, updating the strategy maybe is a big word, but we adapted very quickly to the COVID-19 pandemic. The port stayed 100% fully operational at all times. In a very short time, for instance, we tripled, we delocalized our vessel traffic management services in 3 locations. Before that, it was just only 1 location. We also adapted very quickly from about 100 employees working at home on a daily basis, on average from 100 to 750, almost day to day. We developed, for instance, an app for desk workers, so they can make reservations for an office location in the port house. We also increased some measures on cybersecurity because we saw an increasing activity in that domain. So I think we responded very well on the COVID-19 pandemic. But before that, we were already very busy on digitalization. So for us, it didn't came all of a sudden and as a problem. So we managed, I think, very well to cope with the pandemic.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you for providing this very thorough and detailed answer to this question. So I can see on the chat that they are not. So we have one more question. Is the data for Cargo Flow Optimiser available via API? So I believe this is for Stefano.
Yes, I mean, it's the APIs are in place now. The idea is to have searches through APIs more than data through APIs, but the API is already, some of them are already in place, and we also think that we need to extend this depending from how we want to add services, but is already thought about in this way. By data, you mean the calculation of the routes, for instance, not the raw data, of course.
I believe that they are not referring to raw data as well. So thank you, Stefano. I do not see any further questions on the chat. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the webinar agenda.
Yes. Okay, so as we do not have any further questions, I would like to point out that this webinar is co-organized by the ERTICO Academy. I would like to thank you both for joining and attending. Hope this was fruitful and constructive as well. The webinar material, including the presentations, the agenda, and the recording will be made available within the day on our website, where you can find also the most recent news and updates. You may also subscribe to our newsletter to keep in touch with us. And also, we are also active on the social media if you would like to raise any questions or to pose any comments. So I wish you have a very nice day and a very nice afternoon, all of you. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.